But join me now in studio, Travis Weber, FRC's Vice President for Policy and Government Affairs, and Katherine Johnson. She is our Research Fellow for Legal and Policy Studies. Travis, Katherine, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tony.
All right, let's start with the fact that we now have several court decisions, the Supreme Court, several decisions, and California in particular. Not only has Governor Newsom, recalled Governor Newsom, not only has he had to back away of his draconian, tyrannical policies, but he's had to pay up.
That's right. When we saw Justice Barrett take the place of Justice Ginsburg, that's when we saw a dramatic change in religious liberty in the COVID era. And so that's really when churches were able to start being treated equal to other secular interests of the state. And so as a result of that, California has reached a settlement with several churches in the state of $2 million in legal fees that these churches have acquired based on Newsom's actions. They have placed an injunction against the state from ever treating these religious churches separately from the secular interests. So it is a huge win, and it once again shows that the courts really do matter in our first and most important interest and liberties.
Yeah, I mean, this a lot of this goes back to the Trump administration placing constitutionalists onto the courts. Certainly at the Supreme Court level. How many decisions have we had out of the Supreme Court as it pertains to the issue of churches meeting and their constitutional freedoms?
Yeah, Tony, so in the COVID era, I think we've had about 12 Supreme Court decisions. 6 times the Supreme Court's had to slap down California's restrictions on churches. That's pretty significant because, as Katherine mentioned, after Justice Barrett got on the court, you saw some good decisions start to come out, really upholding a pretty basic principle that treat religion and secular entities the same. But since then, we've seen these work their way out in a lot of courts. That's not fully resolved, as you mentioned, in regards to San Jose. But these cases have been working their way out in the lower federal courts and state courts. But we still have a little bit of work to do here.
I mean, once the Supreme Court has spoken on this issue repeatedly, I mean, you've got, we had the Rock Church. I've actually spoken at that church, and they were one of the ones that received the settlement with the state. South Bay Pentecostal Church. They were involved in our Freedom Sunday event. They, too, have received a settlement. So what is it up in Northern California there in San Jose in the Silicon Valley that has led that government to continue with its draconian, I'll get it out there in a moment, their tyrannical overreach that we're seeing there in San Jose?
It's really appalling, as you said, 6 times having to go to the court just to be able to freely exercise your religion. And this isn't just, I go to the court. This is incurring legal fees. This is spending most of your day talking to your lawyers, figuring out what to do. And when it happens 6 times, you have to question, is something else going on? This seems to really especially be targeting religion. And why is it targeting religion? There seems to be really a disdain in the state, especially the northern part of the state, for religion.
But if we look, Travis, at the track record here, these churches will ultimately prevail.
Yeah, I mean, based on what the principles the Supreme Court has clearly laid out in the Roman Catholic Archdiocese and other cases, you have to treat religious entities the same as secular entities. Now, we haven't seen every little argument that every church might have made in these cases, so we don't, there's a lot that's kind of taking place behind the curtain, so to speak, here, but what we have is the data points, and this is the one area it seems to be, probably a few others, that this is not fully resolved yet. Meanwhile, it's being resolved elsewhere, including in D.C. here. So it is troublesome that this is still taking place. We know the churches have been going after, or the county's been going after their loans, the ability of these churches to exist and operate where they are. So it is concerning. It should be resolved, and we have to look to the courts to continue to help resolve it.
Now, Katherine, do we know, in terms of the churches that were facing fines, were fined, various amounts depending on where they were and what state? Have most of those been erased and eradicated?
It definitely depends. The most recent one, the church that you spoke at, he incurred $3 million in fines, which was by far the most, and his fines are still outstanding. The state's still expecting him to pay as of now.
And that's the county.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
county,
the
yes.
county. But in most other jurisdictions, the fines have been wiped away with these decisions.
It's certainly depending. I believe most of them have.
All right. All right. Well, it looks like we're out of time. Travis, Catherine, I want to thank you for joining us. We're going to continue to track this because I think it's important, because where we wrap this quote unquote pandemic up and the way churches are treated is where we will start the next go round when the next pandemic occurs.